Hi there, this is Steve Kimes of Onawim Christian Community. Oh yeah, I'm the pastor there. And this is the story of the Bible. And we are on, what? Are we on number 4 or 5? We're on number 5. Ooh. Okay, and today we're going to talk about timelines. All right, now, let's talk about timelines. First of all, Genesis chapter 1. We kind of went through the whole thing of what's going on in Genesis chapter 1, that the whole idea behind Genesis chapter 1, first of all, God made everything, okay? God subdued everything and put it under his rule. And the main point of Genesis chapter 1 is to put darkness and the ocean into prison, so that way it's under God's control. And then finally, the final point of Genesis chapter 1 is God put humanity in charge. These are the things that Genesis chapter 1 is talking about. Is Genesis chapter 1 saying, since it's got 7 days, the seventh day God resting, but basically 6 days of creation, is it focusing on 6 24-hour periods, and is it focusing on a particular order of creation? Well, I want you to note that that on day 6, God created the animals and humanity. And before that, on a previous day, God created vegetation. All the vegetation was there. Before he created humanity, on a previous day, before he created humanity, before he created the animals. And then you've got the separation, the sun, moon, and stars, and all that kind of stuff. All right, now in Genesis 2, I'm going to read this to you distinctly, because you've actually got two different creation accounts. So we got creation in Genesis 1, and continue on a little bit into Genesis 2, talking about the seventh day. And then when we get to Genesis 2, chapter 4, it's like it's starting over again. It's saying, this is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created. Oh, is it talking about what it just said, or is it talking about what it's saying afterwards? Well, it could be either way. Look at this. It says, when Yahweh God, whenever you see the word Lord in all caps, by the way, that's the word Yahweh. And you can say Yahweh if you want, if you see the all caps. When Yahweh God made the earth and the heavens, and no shrub of the field had yet appeared on the earth, no plant of the field had sprung up, for Yahweh God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to work the ground, but streams came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. Yahweh formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. And then Yahweh God planted a garden. That'd be Eden. I want you to notice here what's going on. So we have the account in Genesis chapter 1, and that talks about the creation of the world. And here it seems like we're starting over again. We're doing it. And the reason is because the book of Genesis is actually a collection of different stories. You've got different stories from different places, and somebody, maybe Moses, edited all these stories together, which is how come the writing is a little different sometimes in some places of Genesis. You notice that like the story of Joseph is a much longer story, and the writing is really quite different there. Even the vocabulary is different from early parts. And we also have genealogies that come in here in Genesis and all that. Genesis is a book that is edited. It's an editorial book about some of the most ancient texts or ancient oral histories that were passed down from generation to generation. So here we have, in Genesis 1, we have one text which talks about the creation and borrows a lot from Canaanite mythology, which we talked about basically as a correction to Canaanite mythology. And then we have here in Genesis 2, it's like it starts over. Well, that's because we have a different text here that's going. But I want you to notice, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 has one difference. A contradiction, if you would like to say. I prefer not to say a contradiction because that gets some people uptight, but the fact is that it's different. And the area in which it's different is the time in which things were created. In Genesis chapter 1, we already said that first you have vegetation made, and then later on, another day, you've got humanity made. Here in Genesis 2, you have humanity made And then you have vegetation made. It says that there was no vegetation when Yahweh created man. And then he made the garden. But in Genesis 1, it says that on one day he made vegetation, and then the next day he did make humanity. That's a contradiction. That is a difference between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. So does this mean that Moses, or whoever the editor was stupid? And they said, oh, well, gosh, I didn't see that when I put it together. I must have skipped that. The chapters are right next to each other. It's kind of hard to miss. I know. A lot of Christians miss it. A lot of really good Bible students miss this thing. And okay, so maybe it's possible that the editor missed it too. But I would like to propose something different. I would like to propose that actually the point of what the editor of Genesis, the compiler of Genesis, was trying to make was something a little different, that he knew about the difference, this little timeline difference. And he said, that's not important. The important thing is that both of these texts talk about humanity being created and humanity being put in charge of the earth. That's why he put them both in there. But the time frame wasn't important. That's how come he could put both of them in. He doesn't have to change it or anything. He could have changed it. He could have changed the wording if he felt like that was significant. But the time frame wasn't significant. So why do you think it is that so many Christians spend so much time and millions of dollars focusing on the time frame of Genesis 1 instead of just saying, yeah, God created everything and he created humanity and we're in charge of the earth and we have to rule good? Why don't we focus on the important points of Genesis 1 and 2 instead of focusing on that which in the Bible itself seems to indicate isn't important at all? The time frame's not important. When things happened or how long they happened isn't significant. That's just not important. The important thing is God did it. That's the important thing. And so if we focus, once again, I said this in the first time, if we focus on hating people or saying you're not a good enough Christian because you have a different point of view from me as to when things were created, well then, if you're holding that as a point of doctrine, then you've got a problem not just with your fellow Christian, you got a problem with the Bible. And I think maybe you better read it again. May the Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace.